but I'm glad I got that industry experience because I've really been just like this is so nerdy to say, but on my phone, I have a folder called Gymspiration that I started 20 years ago. And if I went to a gym that had a cool anything, a water fountain, nice parking, good locker rooms, a sweet bouldering area, good route setting, I would take photos or notes. And for 20 years, I've just been capturing these notes. Like someday I open a gym.
I love that.
I'm going to make sure that these gyms that are doing something right, even if I don't really think the gym is, if they just, every gym has one thing they do well, let me make a note of that and try to copy it later.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sounds of Health. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and today I'm really excited to welcome our guest, Nate McKenzie, the co-owner of Ascent New Haven. If you're here today to listen to Nate, please be sure to like and subscribe to Sounds of Health, where every week we uncover inspiring stories, meet incredible people like Nate, and also share valuable resources to help you to boost your physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Nate, welcome to Sounds of Health.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you here today. I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about you and your journey with Ascent.
Yeah, great. We just opened actually about a little over a year ago, our location in New Haven. It's been pretty interesting. It's something that started about 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It's been a little bit of a process, but now that it's finally here, it feels great and things are going well.
And so Ascent is a climbing gym, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're a climbing gym downtown New Haven. We're located in the district. And we mostly feature bouldering, which is a shorter form of climbing. It's very easy to get into because there's not a lot of skills and equipment necessary.
Yeah.
You're climbing shorter walls over pads. So when you come in the gym for the first time, we teach you how the roots work and how to fall properly and give you a bit of an orientation. But then we also just built in some other amenities that we thought people would value. Like we have a sauna. We have a pretty extensive strength training area. We have a full yoga studio program where we teach yoga and mobility and meditation. And so we thought that we could kind of package up some of these other sort of fitness and health practices inside of a bouldering and climbing gym, and that New Haven was really like a great spot.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I love that. Well, we definitely want to talk more about that and all of the things that you're offering, but I want to go back a little bit first and hear more about what your story is. Where are you from? What got you into this type of work and brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I'll give you the short version. I grew up in Seattle, or just outside of Seattle in the foothills. And where climbing and sort of outdoor recreation started for me was just kind of as a teenager growing up, looking at the mountains and the volcanoes every day. It just kind of got in my head. You'd look up at these mountains. They seem so close. That led to some sort of like trips and hiking, which led to getting into trail running with my dad, which led into some overnight backpacking trips. And when you're hiking is great, but you sort of just get curious about what the next step is, what the next level is. You're sort of standing back looking at the mountain. And I was just always curious as a kid, like, what is it like up there? How do you get on those things?
Yeah.
And so a friend of my dad at work invited us to go rock climbing one day. I was probably 12 or 13. It was actually, I remember it in my head as kind of a traumatic experience. I thought it sounded really fun, but then when you get to the top of the cliff, I suddenly realized I had this pretty extreme fear of heights.
Most people do.
Most people do. It turns out you can work through that and manage that with this sort of right kind of coach. And but that really lit a spark. I just kind of became obsessed with climbing and mountaineering and exploring and just wanted to be outside all the time. And in high school, it kind of blossomed when I had my driver's license, joined a local gym, got on a climbing team, became competitive for a little while. And it's just been the one thing that I've wanted to do forever, since
that's amazing.
Since being a teenager. And it's something I hope I can continue to do.
So
as long as I can walk.
Having climbing teams, was that a part of your high school? Was that a regular thing in that area?
We moved around a bunch as kids, and for my dad's job, we moved a lot. But most of the towns or the cities that we would move to would have some sort of small climbing gym. And usually those climbing gyms would offer youth programs, including climbing teams and competitions and things. And so that's kind of what happened. We would move to a new city, spend 6 months to a year there, and the way that I would kind of find my way into a new city or town would be to just explore the the climbing community there.
Yeah.
The first thing I would look up before schools, before houses, anything was where's the climbing gym.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so that's kind of how I kept that going. We moved a lot, but I was able to kind of engage with climbing most places that we lived.
Very nice. And was climbing for you at that age, was it something you always did with a group of people, or was it a social thing as well?
It was, yeah. I think that was a big part of it. When it's tough in high school and you move a lot and you're not developing relationships with other kids your age, or you are, and then you're moving again. And so the nice thing about climbing was it just kind of had its own culture, its own language, and you could kind of bounce from one climbing community to another and fall in pretty seamlessly, pretty quick, because you had this shared passion, the shared language. And so I really think it was part of the reason I think it became so important to me at that time was there was just a lot of turmoil in all the moves, but the climbing thing felt sane and consistent and helped me
That's awesome.
settle in.
Yeah,
So I think it was that personal
sense.
connection, which fast forward to today, I mean, that's why we are a bouldering gym, and that's definitely first, but we're so intentional about building these like social programs, bouldering, but with people, or climbing with friends, or training, but with other people around, because we just think that social connection, it was so important to me growing up as a kid. And I think it's just really lacking today and is necessary.
For sure. Absolutely. So you obviously had a calling to this at a really young age. Yeah. But what did you go to school? Like what did you do? How did you get from there to here?
It's a good question. I did go to school. I kind of finished high school. I ended up testing out early, again, just kind of because the moves were just challenging. And so I ended up sort of testing out and finishing school early. I did enroll in school, but I was just not one of those kids that had a clear idea of like, this is what I want to do for my career. So I was a little bit aimless and kind of wandering in college. It was my sophomore year. They sat me down and said, we cannot enroll you again until you declare some kind of major.
Oh, wow.
And I just remember just freezing. I felt like this was the biggest decision of my life. Whatever I chose right now in this moment.
That was it. That's who you're going to be.
That's who I'm going to be.
Yeah, right.
I just crumbled under the pressure. So this person, I'm not sure if they were a guidance counselor or just someone enrolling me in classes, but they just leaned across and said, all right, I can tell this is really tough for you. No matter what you do, you'll probably be working for some kind of business. So you should just declare business as your major.
That's great advice.
So they signed me up in a double major for marketing and management. And so that's what I did. In college, I ended up getting this job for this company. It was started by a guy named Mark Beagleman, who had founded Office Depot. Mm-hmm. And so he had sold Office Depot and had a bit of a fortune amassed. And he wanted to start a new company that would sell musical instruments. And but inside the store, he wanted a recording studio and a learning center and all these different things. So imagine Guitar Center, but like the size of a Best Buy.
Oh, wow.
They were
That's
huge,
so cool.
35,000 square foot stores. And
where are you at this point?
At this point, we had landed in Orlando. So I'm in
So
college in
on the East
Orlando,
Coast,
Florida. Yeah. So no climbing. I was looking for a diversion from climbing, so I started playing guitar and getting into music a little bit. But this job came along, and the company was expanding so quickly. I was just climbing the ladder really quick. I kept getting promoted every 3 or 4 months. I'd be in some new, different leadership role. I was just getting a ton of real world experience. And I started to feel the disconnect between a business degree and what actually happens in a fast growing business. And so my manager there, a guy named Don Marsman, just encouraged me actually to drop out of college. And he just pointed out, like, you're climbing the ladder really quickly. This company is growing really fast. We need more of you. We need you to go full time. And look, you're already hiring the graduates from the business school.
Wow.
So maybe just come on board with us. And so I wasn't doing great in school, and I really didn't enjoy it. So I kind of jumped at that opportunity and continued to grow with the company. But the company ended up just kind of taking on too much debt and expanded too quickly. And so Mark ended up losing interest in it, and he ended up chopping the company up and selling it. So the division of the company that I worked for was the most profitable division of the company, but it got sold off to Sam Ash Music, which is based on Long Island in New York.
Sure,
and they had a store here in New Haven.
Sam Ash, yeah.
Yeah. And so they didn't really have a spot for me at Sam Ash. I became a bit of a cleaner, which was just code for, they had 55, 60 stores. They would put me in whatever, 55 or 60. And my job was to kind of clean it or close it. And so that's actually what brought me to New Haven. The store was pretty troubled and needed a bit of a new staff and had some inventory control issues and some theft problems and other stuff going on in the store. And so I came to New Haven to clean that up. But moving back to New
So
Haven,
cleaning it up meaning make it profitable.
meaning just decide if the store could be saved, essentially.
Yeah, gotcha.
Could you get it back to a place where you could stop the theft and solve the inventory control problems? And we basically took the New Haven store, closed it down for a few weeks, loaded all the inventory into a liquidator's truck, and then rebuilt the store, reopened it a few weeks later. So
That's wild.
it was demanding, but those were the kind of experience I was having at the age of like 22, where I would have 40 employees. I'd go into a store, try to clean it up and fix these really serious problems. And so these feel like the kind of problems that a traditional business marketing management degree is probably not going to prepare you for. And I was kind of like living it.
Right.
But moving back to New Haven brought me closer to, trees and outdoors and woods and trails and rocks. And so I started to kind of pick up my passion for climbing again after moving in New Haven, because we're not known as a great alpine destination here in Connecticut.
We're not.
But there are exposed tall rocks all over the state.
Yeah.
And there's some incredible climbing. And the access we have to climbing here is incredible because it's roadside. You can just pull up your car. In Seattle, going climbing for a couple of hours wasn't really an option. It was something you could do on the weekends, but you'd have to drive and plan and take a lunch. Here, it's something that's accessible after work or for a couple hours in the morning. And so I started to kind of lose my interest in the music. The job was really difficult and demanding. And so I started to try to plan an exit and try to find a way to take what I had learned from running those music stores and apply it toward a climbing business, which there really wasn't a great example or lead to follow at that time. This is probably in like early 2000s, 2005.
Okay.
Climbing gyms, they were around, but they were generally very small. They were kind of solo, single operator. They were usually tucked back in, dingy, dark industrial parks.
Right.
And so it kind of took some time, but that's moving back here, working for the music store. I just wanted to apply what I had learned in running those businesses toward finding my way in some sort of climbing or outdoor related business where I could take people out and introduce and teach people climbing. So that's what I did.
That's amazing. Now, did you have some confidence built up and knowing that you could actually do this and make it work as a business?
I didn't really see a path, to be honest. I was looking around. I was like, who is the person or what is the company? What is really the model for this? And in 2005, there wasn't a lot. I thought I probably wanted to own a gym because as a kid, going to the climbing gym in any city was just so important and so valuable to me. That's where I started. And I looked around Connecticut and it just seemed widely underserved. There was a couple older gyms around, but nothing really in major metro areas. They were kind of tucked away at that time. It's changed somewhat now. There's more availability.
Right.
But, real estate is really tough. It takes a lot of money. Running a gym is very different than running a music store in a lot of ways. And so what ended up happening in New Haven, there's a guy building a gym. It's still open today under different ownership, but he was building a small gym, needed a little bit of extra money. And so I took what I had and I invested in his gym and became a part owner of a place called the Connecticut Rock Gym. And I'm glad I did. I mean, there was some mistakes made there. That gym didn't last much longer. In 2009, 10 or so, it ended up closing down and falling under different ownership just because of some tax and mismanagement issue from the owner. But but I'm glad I got that industry experience because I've really been just like this is so nerdy to say, but on my phone, I have a folder called Gymspiration that I started 20 years ago. And if I went to a gym that had a cool anything, a water fountain, nice parking, good locker rooms, a sweet bouldering area, good route setting, I would take photos or notes. And for 20 years, I've just been capturing these notes. Like someday I open a gym.
I love that.
I'm going to make sure that these gyms that are doing something right, even if I don't really think the gym is, every gym has one thing they do well, let me make a note of that and try to copy it later.
I think that's a great idea.
So I've been doing that for 15, 20 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what was the CT Rock Gym like?
It was a small gym in a warehouse in Science Park, New Haven. It's quite small. It's actually where I met Jason. But it was very home built, just kind of framed out of 2x6s and cheap plywood and just sort of like DOT paint on the walls. It was very low tech, very low budget. But the cool thing about climbing is that gravity is the same everywhere. And so what the gym lacked in sort of amenities and an expensive build, it more than made up for just in community. They're just employees or climbers from that community like myself and Jason, who I'm just still friends with. It's just really led to lasting relationships and a passion for climbing. And for the most part, all of us are still engaging with climbing on some level. Many people have gotten married and had children and things change, but we still are close and like to see each other and recreate and all that. So
that's cool. Well, it's a different type of relationship when you're climbing with someone and you build that trust in people. They're holding you up on a wall, with a belay sometimes, you get a very intimate relationship when you're doing that. and that extends into the work that you do too. So, having in like everything we do with health insurance, you want to work with people that you trust. You want to work with people that, you feel comfortable with. And that was the community at the CT Rock Gym. Yeah. That was just like the foundational, bits of it, open to everyone, then in a safe space where you can trust people. So that's where it kind of all began.
Yeah, the climbers I've known have always been very passionate people and always very open and just really great community, it seems. I've always kind of had on the periphery of, some of my friend groups. So I think that's awesome. So after CT Rock Gym was gone, what was your next step?
Yeah, so during my time at CT Rock Gym, I started to develop a bit of an outdoor climbing program through the gym. And so when the gym closed down, I was pretty much able to roll that outdoor program into a full-time job. And so that's when I started Ascent Climbing. It began as a rock and ice climbing guide service in 2006, 2007 was when I incorporated. And it became a full-time job. And that's essentially what I've done full-time from 2006-07 to 2023 when we opened Ascent New Haven. And we're still guiding and we're still running programs outdoors. I'm a little bit less involved in the day-to-day, and I have a couple of other guides who are, up and coming and taking clients out and teaching people outside.
Were there certain certifications or training you needed in order to do something like that?
Yeah, it's a bit unregulated in terms of like state and federal requirements for certifications. And so any certification there is voluntary. And I signed myself up pretty much immediately for training through the American Mountain Guide Association and began taking courses there, both for indoor climbing instruction and then also for outdoors. So I'm what's known as a AMGA certified single pitch instructor, which essentially certifies you to work or take clients up on cliffs up to about 100 feet. And then later became a multi-pitch instructor, which allows us up to cliffs of 500-600 feet or so, which covers most of New England.
Yeah, right. So what you were doing there with the outdoor programs, were you doing it only in Connecticut, or were you taking trips in other areas as well?
It was primarily in Connecticut, but we would do things called like Rumney Road Trip, or we would take New Haven climbers, mostly students without cars, and we would jump in a van and go up to New Hampshire and try to get them out in the mountains on the weekends. That's basically how that started, and we're actually still running very similar programs to this day.
Really? That's really excellent. So then you're doing that, and then when does it become Ascent? Or it was still called Ascent, right? When you were doing that?
It's been called Ascent the whole time, Ascent Climbing, and then we've sort of branded the gym Ascent New Haven, kind of building off of the small company that I started just as a solo operation. As working as a guide, it's gig work. You sign someone up, you get paid for the day you work. But if you get rained out, you don't get paid. And so most guides have sort of side hustles or other projects, or they'll do landscaping. Or for me, I really wanted to keep it climbing, and so I would work in other people's climbing gyms. Sometimes as an instructor, sometimes just coming in and teaching workshops for them. Sometimes as more of a consultant or business consultant, even. I think just kind of building on my ability to sort of clean and turn businesses around. Yeah. There was a gym in Fairfield, Connecticut that was going through a change of ownership, and I came in and took on a temporary project there to kind of help the transition from one owner to another and hire some management and train some staff. And so I was able to unlock that skill set, all the while trying to guide full time.
That's awesome.
So it was busy and challenging, but I found that there was plenty of opportunity to kind of fill the gaps in if I was creative and willing to stay plugged into the business.
Right. And was that coming to like via word of mouth? Like, how does somebody even know that you're the guy that can help with that?
I think I'm not one to pat myself on the back, but I think it was just reputation. They were just kind of looking around going like, who can help, who's available, who has the chops and availability to kind of do this thing. And honestly, it was a little bit at that time, at least early 2000s. I don't think there was a lot of people around who either had the interest and availability or experience to do it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of fell in it in that way. Most of these opportunities I wasn't actively pursuing. I was just kind of open to them when they arrived.
That's awesome.
So I don't know. It's like, I don't know if luck is the right word, but it was sort of, I think you can cultivate your luck a little bit. And that's what I was trying to do, was just be available and be a leader and be someone who shared what they knew with others. And I think when you do that, it comes back.
Well, your decision not to do another job, another, side hustle or something like that, and stay focused in one area probably served you really well in that regard.
Yeah, it kept me available.
Right.
When those opportunities came up, I could jump on them. There's also another just really important thing that happened. It really informs kind of how I approach climbing now. And in 2008, a very close friend of mine was severely injured in a climbing accident in Colorado. And he came home from his injuries, essentially an incomplete paraplegic. He had a spinal cord injury, but only incomplete paralysis, which meant he lost a bunch of his mobility, but had all of the pain.
Oh, wow.
In his lower extremities and his back, lots of plate and screws and surgeries and things from a climbing fall that he took out in Colorado. I wasn't with him, but when he came home, he just wanted to be around climbing and climbers, even though it wasn't clear he would ever walk again. And so we started taking him in the gym. He took his first steps out of his wheelchair in the climbing gym. We actually put a harness on him and tied him into ropes so that if he fell over, we could catch him.
Wow.
So we did these things probably against doctor's orders, so not recommending maybe, but it just kind of led this path where we started to realize that climbing was this incredible adaptive pursuit that anyone with a disability could pursue, even if you couldn't walk. And so I noticed this small group of veterans in the DC area had kind of, again, against doctor's orders, sort of busted out of Walter Reed for a couple hours one day, and they just showed up unannounced at a climbing gym. And the climbing magazine did a little blurb in a sidebar about this little group. And I just emailed the guy and I said, "Hey, I saw what you did at Walter Reed. I think that's really cool. Congrats. If you ever need another place to climb and you're up in Connecticut, come up, check out the gyms up here. Love to show you around." My phone rang. I just emailed a random email out of a climbing magazine, and my phone rang 20 minutes later, and it was this guy, DJ Skelton. Sounded really intense. Turns out he worked at the Pentagon, was a climber, had some injuries from combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, and was just passionate about helping disabled veterans just have hope and just get on their feet and be able to use their bodies to do hard things. And so a couple of days later, he just showed up in New Haven, and he's like, "McKenzie, I have this idea for a nonprofit called Paradox, and we're going to incorporate in Colorado, and we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out how people with disabilities can rock climb. And then we're going to take what we learn and we're going to share it everywhere. We're going to develop a curriculum and write a book and run programs." And so that's what we did. We started this little nonprofit called Paradox Sports. It's still running today, has a staff and an office and programs all over the country, from New Hampshire and New York out to Joshua Tree in California and Colorado. And it's really taught me just a lot about climbing and accessibility and movement and how important it is for health. And it's really kind of started a movement across the country. Now it's actually kind of the exception. More gyms have adaptive climbing programs now than don't.
Right.
And back in 2008 when we started, there were virtually none.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, climbing is one of those things I feel like it is so rewarding for a person when you can actually accomplish something you didn't think you could accomplish.
Yeah.
So it does translate well to people with disabilities, to people with illnesses, to people, anybody who's really struggling with keeping that positive mindset. Doing something like climbing really, I think, can help you to change that mindset and give you more positivity.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, when people have an injury or disability, expectations kind of fall through the floor, and accessibility and all those things are really important. But it's not true that someone with a disability can't use their body to do hard things.
Right. Yeah.
And some sports kind of lend themselves to adaptation more than others, but climbing really is an adaptive enterprise, whether or not you're quote disabled or not, or non-disabled. For example, one of my favorite things in the world to do is ice climbing. And it's just true that no one can climb ice without prosthetic devices.
Really?
We call them crampons and ice tools.
Yeah.
Right? The spikes we put in our hands and on our feet. But the reality is that no one can climb without those adaptations. And so it's really it's not a very giant leap to just say, well, someone who maybe has an amputation or is blind or is hearing impaired or deaf or visually impaired and blind could do it as well with the right set of tools and coaching. And so that's a practice that has kind of taught me that climbing, I used to view climbing as sort of a selfish pursuit, something I did for myself. It was about chasing grades and difficulty and performance. But it's really led me to believe that climbing and recreation, just in whatever form, not just climbing, but just outdoor recreation and climbing can really be a tool for connecting people, for making the world a better place, and for bringing health in the outdoors and empowerment to people who want it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a couple of things too that come along with it. One, you have to be so prepared, right? I mean, this is a dangerous sport. So something that, there's a lot of safety that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that and what that's like.
Climbing is we never say the S word, which in climbing is safe. We never say it's safe. Mm-hmm. As you said, there's always risk, especially outside. There's a lot you can't control for, just rock, even like bees and ticks and others, just snakes. It's the outdoors, right? So I think climbers have developed a bit of a language and a way for thinking about risk that I think the general public doesn't quite get or understand. But what I like about climbing is I think of risk as like levers or dials. And in climbing, you really can turn them up and turn them down by making decisions about what kind of climbing you want to do. So on one end of the spectrum, the risk spectrum, you have indoor climbing. It's a pretty controlled environment. The anchors are inspected. The walls are maintained. If you go to a good operator,
right.
which you should.
Yeah.
And so you can really dial down some of the, some of the risk there. Now you still have to belay properly and tie good knots, and you still have to fall properly. Things can still happen, but you can see it would be at one end of the risk spectrum. At the far opposite end would be like maybe mountaineering and alpine climbing, where you're going into these zones where avalanche and serac fall and things like that are possible.
Sure.
Maybe ice climbing, particularly like leading ice climbing. But there's a lot of room in between those two extremes to kind of decide what is an appropriate level of risk for you as a climber. And so that's a conversation we have all the time with people. If you're not comfortable lead climbing to the top of a route, which means you're placing your own protection, you're building your own anchors, maybe top roping or sport climbing where you're choosing routes that have, pre-installed hardware or anchors already built in them, and how can we kind of steer you both toward like a sustainable and responsible skill progression in your climbing practice.
Right.
And also give you the permission to say, that next step is too far for me. It's not right for me now. I'm going to top rope, or I'm going to let my friend lead this, or I'm going to go sport climbing instead of ice climbing. And so there actually is a lot of control if climbers are willing to engage with that and think very sort of holistically about like what level of risk is appropriate for them.
Finding the path that's right for them.
Yeah.
That totally meets them at that point in their life, because it can probably change too.
Absolutely. It does. It can change. It probably should change with variables like, even just weather, but also your own fitness level and comfort level.
Sure.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of climbing in my life, but I've always approached it, when I have done it, it's something that actually also challenges you creatively.
Yeah.
Like you have to be creative in order to get past certain points. And I love that it does that, because it keeps you in the moment, first of all.
Yeah.
You really have to be present in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And you're focused on, how am I going to overcome this challenge? And where's my next handholder? And I don't have all the words, but
yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think from the non-climber's perspective, if your idea of climbing comes from popular media, it can seem like a really out of control kind of sort of risk taking. Like if you saw the Alex Honnold piece on 60 Minutes with him free soloing El Cap, I mean, he's the only one that does that. The rest of us, millions of us now,
right,
aren't pushing it quite that hard and extreme.
Yeah.
It's a great way, like you said, to experience like flow, where when you practice and you choose appropriate challenges, you really can kind of get into a flow state with it, where you're just kind of moving on the rock and you're not really thinking about the height or even really thinking that you're just kind of focused on flowing and moving on the rock and using your skills to ascend, or ice or whatever it is. So I love that about rock climbing in particular.
my favorite thing about rock climbing, it's been a little bit of time since I've been on a wall, but I like treating it like a problem and problem solving.
Yeah.
And then you get the sense of accomplishment when you complete the problem. Just looking at something, and in every route is something different. So creatively finding the solution to something. That's the way I look at it. And I get a lot out of that in terms of fulfillment. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely. What is it about the ice climbing specifically that you love so much?
I think it's what first of all, it just feels like a cheat code. It just feels like you're not supposed to be there. I'll be totally honest. It's something about ice. I don't know that I actually do love it more. It's just that the season is so short. It's kind of like, you get a good powder day and you're
like a
skier,
treat.
you want to go. It's like a treat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But there is this set of skills where you're putting in ice screws and you're climbing. So much of ice climbing is just about your ability to control your mind, stay focused and not freak out, and just take deep breaths and just practice really good movement skills. Climbing, rock climbing, ice climbing. I mean, Instagram would tell you that it's all about, gymnastics. It's in just like pure power and your ability to fling your body up things. But that's actually not what climbing really is. It really is a skill sport. And so it's, placing your feet properly, having your equipment kind of tuned. And when that all just comes together and you're just flowing up a frozen waterfall, it just feels so outrageous.
Yeah.
There's kind of like this appropriate stretch zone where it's okay to push yourself a little bit. You could push yourself maybe a little bit technically. But if you push too far, you can kind of get into this panic red zone. And so it really does come down to just choosing appropriate challenges and skills. But when you get that right, it just feels incredible.
That's awesome. I love that. I could probably talk to you a whole lot more about climbing in itself, but I want to talk more about Ascent and the business.
Yeah.
So tell me what you guys offer at the gym. So now you have this location. So was this kind of the culmination of all this note taking you did for however many years?
It really is. I mean, for the last, I would say 8 to 10 years, I really did kind of buckle down on trying to find a way to get a gym going. And so, it was kind of a little bit of a chicken and egg problem as a climbing guide. You don't have, the revenue coming in to build the facility that I'd kind of imagined. So I knew I would need partners. And so for a number of years, I would kind of travel around and look at different real estate and meet with developers and meet with town economic development partners and try to figure out like where's the best part in town, who has a building that could work, can we buy something, and just kind of like putting it together while cultivating a group of investors that when the time was right and the opportunity was right, would be willing to come in and help fund a project. And so I did that for about 8 or 10 years. And you always kind of ran into this chicken and egg problem. People wanted to invest, but they weren't willing to come in until you had locked down a lease. And they didn't want to come in until you had raised the first $500,000, then call me up, So had a little bit of a chicken and egg problem and just had a few deals that seemed promising, not work out. And then my current business partner, Katie, she was of the climbing community in New Haven, which is where I really wanted to be. She had managed a gym called City Climb, which is what Connecticut Rock Gym became after I left.
So a new owner took over that.
So a new owner took over. Katie, I think, just started as kind of like very entry level, just working the desk and just doing some belaying and stuff there, and then became the manager of the gym and ran the gym for a while. And just as we all had done, like had fallen in love with the New Haven climbing community and that gym and had done a good job running it. She and her family had some capital and were actually interested in buying that gym. And so she called me early in the process and said, I'm thinking about picking up the gym. And I know you know a lot about it. And would you just look at my offer? And I said, yes, but kind of on one condition. My one condition is I will help you and I hope you're successful. But if you're not, let me just tell you about some other ideas that I have. Like if this deal doesn't work out, let's talk about what else might be possible. And so she pursued that for a while. It didn't work out for a variety of reasons. And then she made good on her offer. She called me up and said, all right, what do you got? So I took her around New Haven, gave her a little bit of a tour of some of the buildings that I was looking at. District was one of maybe 3 or 4 that we looked at. And we threw together a business plan and started making some offers on real estate. And it came together very, very quickly, actually.
That's amazing.
And we signed a lease in 2023 that started in June of 2023, and it involved sort of transitioning the district athletic club, which was a CrossFit gym in the district, and starting to convert that into the bouldering gym that we have now.
That's incredible. So that's the location you're at now.
That's the location we're at now.
And tell me more about the location, the amenities and things that you have there.
Yeah, sure. So it's in a great situation. It's right on the border between Fairhaven and East Rock neighborhoods.
Yeah, great area.
It's visible from I-91. Exit 4 or 5 will get you basically right into our parking lot. And it's also very bikeable and walkable from the East Rock neighborhood. We're in this development called the District, which is, an old building for early 1900s. It used to be a bus depot owned by the state of Connecticut. The building itself is very cool because it was actually became a bit of an environmental embarrassment to the state of Connecticut. It was owned by the state, but had these environmental problems. Oil was leaking into the Mill River, et cetera, et cetera. So the current owner of District, the story is that he bought the building for $1, but it came with an $8 million environmental cleanup.
Wow.
And but he tore half the building down and rehabbed the remaining bit, did the environmental cleanup with partners like Yale and UConn that got involved in the remediation. And they did this just beautiful rehab on this old bus train depot building. Most of the tenants in there are kind of tech, incubator, startup-y kind of businesses. There's even this large co-work space in the back of the building. There's a podcasting and video studio in there, and it really was kind of set up almost like a Silicon Valley kind of tech incubator startup idea. And they wanted a fitness amenity in the building. And so one of the owners of the building was a CrossFit operator and brought in District Athletic Club in the CrossFit business. And we became friends with them and were able to come up with a good deal where we took care of their staff, purchased some of their assets, but then was able to sign and negotiate a new lease on the CrossFit space and built our climbing gym. So District, is lots of parking. There's this cool gravel walking trail that goes around it. There's, a bear smokehouse is in the parking lot, so there's food there. And there's an outdoor amphitheater for live music and film screenings.
It sounds like a perfect location.
It's great. One of my favorite things about the space is we have these huge glass garage doors that face north. So when the weather is nice, we can throw the doors up and it feels like you're climbing inside outside.
And you're right across from Worcester Street, so the best pizza in the world.
We're close to Worcester, all that. Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty great. There's so much natural light. The landlord did a nice job even before we moved in of putting in these skylights. Most climbing gyms I've ever been in feel like some version of a warehouse. And so it's always fluorescent lighting.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel very natural. But our gym, we have hundreds of plants because we have natural daylight in every room. And so it just feels great.
It feels alive.
Outside, inside. Yeah, exactly. It feels alive.
That's great. So tell me about who you're looking to attract. I mean, how many, first of all, actually, how many people are working for you?
Yeah, so we have, if you counted our whole roster, I think we're 32, 34 employees, but a number of those are yoga instructors and part-time folks who teach classes or do coaching.
Yeah.
We also have a crew of kind of rotating route setters that come in. So these are people who take the holds down off the walls, clean them, and then put them up in new configurations. We do route setting every single week. So a section of the gym gets recycled every week.
That's great.
Every 8 weeks or so, the whole gym has been reset.
Wow.
That keeps things kind of clean, but it also keeps the climbing terrain fun and interesting, so it doesn't get stale, and you always have fresh routes and fresh challenges to check out. And then we have kind of a core group of instructors and front desk staff, and now we're with Julie, who's been on this podcast from Mountain View Wellness. We're building kind of a personal training program that we actually think will work for more people, where it's more of an open coaching hours format. You're assigned a personal trainer who writes a program and communicates with you in the app, but you can show up during a wide variety of hours, and you could show up 5 times or 6 times a week if you wanted to, and come into these coaching hours where we'll have personal trainers there to assist with, loading plates or form or answering questions. And so you kind of get a lot of the benefits of one-on-one personal coaching through the app and by meetings with your assigned trainer. But when your life gets busy and making it to that appointment every week isn't working for you, you can pop in during any open hours during the gym and
get a workout
with a trainer there to help you. So Julie is building that now. It's still pretty new, but it launched a few weeks ago, and people are really responding to it because, personal training, the one-on-one coaching thing is great for people who need it, but it really requires a very stable life, very stable schedule, work schedule.
Yeah. How many people have that these days?
And not a lot of people have that. So we're
I
trying
think
to
I'm
help.
one of those people that don't have it these days.
Yeah, no.
I regret actually not coming to the gym recently just to hang out, even because you have so many more amenities than typical rock climbing gyms. You have the yoga studio, for example, is just gorgeous. Studio.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the full sauna and the digital rock wall, which is kind of insane there.
Yeah, we have these
Digital
large
rock wall.
Yeah, we have these. They're called systems boards or training boards. They're these adjustable walls. We have 2 of them. They're both 12 by 12, so 12 feet tall, 12 feet wide, and they have holds set up on a grid. And then inside the holds are these LED lights. And so one is called a decoy board, which is shaped and built by our friend Dan, who's a Connecticut-based climbing business called Decoy Holds. We also have a kilter board. Kilter boards are all over the world. And everyone who has a kilter board has the same set of holds and the same configuration on the same wall. And so Alex Honnold has a kilter board at his condo in Las Vegas. And so he can build routes on his kilter board and upload them to the app, and then people in our gym can climb
That's so cool.
his routes. And so it's on this adjustable wall. You can change the angle from 10 degrees overhanging to like 70 degrees overhanging, which is, almost completely horizontal. And you just light up the routes you want to climb in an app and keep track. And it's kind of like you plug into this national or almost worldwide climbing community through this app on a board.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so to people, is it a membership program? Are there classes? Tell me about what it is you have as an offer.
Our primary, we have day passes, so someone could just, if they're curious, can just pop in. We have 5-visit punch passes for people who maybe aren't ready to quite make the commitment to membership, or they want to climb in frequently. But our most common product is just a single all-access membership. It's less than $100 a month, and it just includes unlimited climbing.
Wow.
All of our yoga classes are included in that. Full access to the sauna, the locker rooms, the training center. We just tried to keep it really simple and not have a complicated menu of options. So we really have one membership that kind of gets you everything. Personal training subscriptions include a full access membership to the gym. So if you're a personal training client of ours, you can pop in for a yoga class if you want, for no additional charge. So we really kind of meant to just keep it simple and all inclusive, and
that's fantastic.
Very easy for people to manage and sign up. We're also not a gym that has complicated contracts, so anyone can cancel at any time with no fees or penalties. There's no long-term contracts. You just have to tell us if you want to cancel.
That's excellent. Fantastic. Now, where do you see it going from here?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. I think phase 1 was like, get the thing built, take that Gymspiration folder on my phone and turn it into a real tangible, like live living thing.
Check.
Yep. And so it was so great. Katie, such a supportive business partner in this. She had her own like flavor and take on stuff. And I think her own ideas, and by jamming those together, I think we came out with something that was really special and cool, even within the climbing industry. Now we're kind of really focusing on just taking the programs we have and really just like investing a lot in the instructors and the programs, like this personal training thing that we're talking about, increasing the number of climbing classes and instruction. So providing more coaching, more skills training, more workshops, so that the members that we have, because we've developed like a larger core member base than we expected to have at this point. And so now we're just trying to take really good care of them through programming. We're also developing a lot of social. It's so important to us that the programs also be designed to like be really valuable climbing courses, but sort of any good climbing gym can do that. What we're really trying to optimize for is social interaction and connecting people. So we have Move to Heal. They come in and climb. I think we're the only sort of strength training or CrossFit style Move to Heal chapter where we do a climbing workout.
Yeah.
If people don't want to climb, they can throw kettlebells around or run around the turf or push sleds or do whatever they want. We give lots of options, but we focus on climbing, and then we do the Move to Heal meeting. We also have a BIPOC group that we've started with some friends to try to encourage more people of color to come in and feel safe in the space and in the gym. We have kind of a pride group. We have a group called Gaze Off Belay, and that meets a couple times a month and to support the LGBTQ community at the gym. And so we're just like really kind of the focus now is just on really investing in the people who got us where we are now.
Yeah.
And next, who knows? I mean, people are asking us to do a rope gym or other gyms. There are no plans.
Possibility though, maybe branching out.
I really want to stay focused on this one, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Never say never.
I think that's the best thing about the gym is there's always people there now. It's like the communities are just building and building and building. You know, whether which group is coming in, there's always people there in the gym, and you always meet someone new, someone that you can hang out with. The few times that I go, always meet someone new, and we always end up just climbing together for a couple of hours, which is rare. You know, you don't see that at other gyms you go to.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, we're a gym with like a co-work space. You can bring your laptop and sit and do work and work out. We try to make like one less decision. If you have to choose between the gym and homework and dinner,
right.
You could just do all three at our gym. We have like a table and seating area, and we try to make it really comfortable so that it can fit in people's lives a little bit better.
It sounds amazing.
I also just think like the big box, there's a lot of great small local gyms around here. They're doing incredible work. So people should find the gym that works for them, right? But I think there's a thing kind of in the big box world where they're not optimizing for social interaction. In fact, most people that go into some of those big box gyms are, earbudded and they're trying not to talk to anybody.
Of course.
They're there to take their medicine. They're just there to walk in, get their, 20 minutes on a treadmill and then hit some, cable machines and get out, and they kind of hate every minute of it and they don't want anyone to talk to them.
Right.
And we're not optimizing for that. And we certainly have those folks, and people can come in our gym and do that. But we get this comment frequently at the front desk where when those people come in, they'll peel one earbud off and say something to the front desk staff like, man, why do these people always want to talk to me? Like, why? There's all these people talking back there. Like, and
they're not used to it.
It's kind of incredible to me that it's working, but it's like we're very intentional about trying to get people to mix and talk and support one another and create it shouldn't just be taking your medicine. You can enjoy. You don't have to hate going to the gym.
Yeah.
You can have fun. You can enjoy it, even if climbing isn't your thing.
Right.
And so even with this open coaching hours, you're taking personal training clients who are kind of walled off and isolated, but you're actually like pushing the clients together with trainers so that they can help each other load plates and count reps. And it's just that encouragement that even people who said they weren't interested in that end up really enjoying it after a period of time. They're like, oh, I get it. I actually don't dread going to the gym anymore because I know my friends are there.
Yeah.
And we just motivate one another, and it's great. And I stay with my program longer. I get more out of it.
We talk a lot on this podcast with people about, how do you stay healthy? And it's about finding things that don't feel like a chore. Like always keep moving, but find something you really enjoy. So I think that, that makes a whole lot of sense, especially creating a sense of community around it and creating this culture of just, connection. I think that's really, really amazing that you're doing that.
Yeah. I think it's especially important. I think one nut we're going to try to crack is sort of like young men. There's been a lot in the media lately about this, but young men are just not putting enough effort into cultivating relationships and developing that side of their development, and then spending more time on their phones and in video games that never end. When I was a kid, games had an ending. You could win them. And
right.
You can't.
Exactly. They just go on forever.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with playing video games. You should do what you should enjoy, but you also need to take time to cultivate these relationships. Because when you don't, we see, increases in addiction and depression and suicide and all these like really terrible things particularly among young men. So I think like having a gym that helps get them connected where they can meet people and it's an important part of, I think, the work that we're doing that isn't obvious maybe from driving by a climbing gym, but it's an important part of what we're trying to do.
Agreed. Completely. Now, you never went back and got a degree at all in business or?
No, I feel like I got my MBA by closing down music stores and working in a music store, but no, I never did.
Yeah. So you've learned everything just through experience. What are the biggest challenges for you in running a business like this?
The biggest challenge, I have to say, like, I'm surprised at how easy this business has felt. Like so many other businesses, it just felt Sisyphusian, like you were just pushing the boulder up the hill. Yeah. And if you took your one hand off the boulder, it would roll back down and crush you. And and this business doesn't feel that way. This is so much more fun and so much more easy than those were. So I don't know if that's a sign I'm doing it wrong or doing it right. I haven't decided yet, but I think
clear that you're doing it right.
But it's not to say it isn't hard and there aren't challenges. There definitely are. I think any business leader, any manager like what gets you into this, what got me into this was my love for climbing. And that was kind of a selfish thing. I wanted to be around climbing because I enjoyed climbing. I wanted to do it for myself. And so I've had to really cultivate a love of like community building, and then also a passion for trying to manage and mentor people, because you can't really build a business by yourself that is going to be sustainable. You have to have partners, and you have to do it with people. And
Right.
so really going deep, even if it's just self-study or working with and for good mentors, but learning how to coach and manage other people, unselfishly getting out of their way, letting them take the lead. That's a little bit hard for me. My inclination is toward like doing the work and micromanaging a little bit. And so
Yeah.
this has been a big exercise in like learning how to step back and trust and let people even make mistakes that I made 10 years ago. I feel like I could save them from them, but then I rob them of the learning
Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely.
And so I think that's probably the hardest part about business for most people is they're good at the thing they do, but they haven't developed the people management skills. And so that's what drives them nuts and steals their joy and holds them back, honestly. So
Yeah.
yeah. But no, I didn't finish. I guess I'm just kind of I'm a reader. I love reading books. I listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
people that I admire, respect. And I think you can absorb and practice a lot through that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been easier to get access to good information.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, I want to thank you for your time and for being here on the podcast with us. Like I said, I could probably sit here and talk about this for another couple of hours, but I'll respect the fact that you probably have other things to do.
That's okay.
The way we wrap up every episode, though, is we ask our guests to leave our audience with a health hack. So this is something that you practice in your daily life that helps you to improve your health, and it could be your emotional, physical, or financial health.
Oh, interesting. Wow, I feel so unqualified to give people advice about this, but I'll just tell you what I find works for me. I mean, there's sleep,
and that's
right?
the idea, right? It's not necessarily
Yeah.
advice. It's like, what's working for you?
Yeah. Sleep, you got to sleep. Like working 12, 14, 15-hour days are tempting, but I find like the productivity drop off after 8 or 10 hours is severe. You'll actually get more done by stopping working, taking a break, recharging a little bit. The other thing that I think about, this is something I've been trying to do lately, is for me, exercise is all about being outdoors and recreating. I just have to be outside every day, whether it's in a kayak or hiking or just going for a walk with my dogs. Make that as easy as possible. And so one of the things I've learned is if I want to get up in the morning and I want to take my dogs for a walk, or I want to go for a trail run, or I want to go for a bike ride, what works for me is I get all of my stuff ready the night before I even go to bed. So if I'm going to get on my bike, I make sure my tires have air, my helmet's ready to go, my water bottle is filled, and I put it on the bike and I roll the bike up by the door. And then I go to bed and it's right there in the morning and I have no excuses and it's just easy. Because sometimes just getting on the bike is hard, but once you're on, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's like, I don't know if this is an Atomic Habits kind of thing. If people have read that book, it's just like, make the things that you want to do as easy as possible to do. Make the things you don't want to be doing, make those hard.
Yeah, I think that's so important and such a great piece of advice, really, because it's something, especially like if you're just waking up in the morning. Like I started practice this year where I'm going to the gym first thing. So I'm waking up, I'm still kind of asleep while I'm doing it. And it makes it easier because you're not even fully aware yet. If I have to find my clothes, where's my sneakers, do all of those other things, then there's more of a chance I'm going to say no.
Same. Get the outfit ready. Just lay the clothes out.
Exactly.
Get it ready.
Yeah.
It's
no barrier to going.
No barrier.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Get out of bed bleary-eyed and just jump in those clothes and
Exactly.
go.
Can I ask for a tip? Like, can you give us a quick summary of the lingo for climbers? Just like, because there's a lot of phrases that
some of the phrases,
some of the jargon, because there's a lot of phrases that we'll use at the gym that people might not know about. That might be a good helpful tip for people jumping in.
Yeah, help me out with this, Jason. So
like the word bomber.
Bomber, bomber just means it's strong.
Means what's strong?
The anchor, the gear, the rope, the climbing hold. It could be literally just used to describe.
Was another one, juggy.
Juggy just means like a handhold, like that you can wrap your fingers around. So like imagine a milk jug handle.
Okay.
A crimp would be the opposite of that, or maybe a sloper. So a crimp would be a flat, sharpish edge of rock where you can only get the first digit of your fingers. And crimping, I know this doesn't make for good podcasting, but you roll your knuckles up over your fingernails and press down really hard. That's called crimping. A sloper is a hold that would be like a slippery, rounded, hard to hold on to thing. So
this is the type of thing that's actually perfect for podcasting. You have no idea.
Yeah.
So are you actually saying this to each other when you're on a course and you're climbing?
Yeah.
Are you
So
calling things out?
If you popped in the gym right now and you have two climbers facing the wall, they're probably waving their arms around in this unintelligible way. What they're doing is they're literally placing their hands in their field of view, like over the holds they're going to be touching.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of rehearsing the sequence, and they might be talking to one another. So they'll say like, okay, I'm going to hit that jug. Then I'm going to undercling and go into the Gaston side pull over there and pull sideways. I'm going to get my foot up, and then I'm going to flag over.
You can do a little stemming with your foot against the wall.
Yeah, and they kind of act it out on the floor because that doesn't cost you any energy.
Right.
And on the wall, you might only really have a few good attempts before you're tired. So you tend, there's all this language and lingo. Climbing, really, like popular climbing in the States, it came from kind of all over. New England definitely had a hand in the history in the early 1920s and 40s, but then in the 60s in Southern California is really where like a modern climbing in Yosemite kind of, and it was a lot of surfers ended up in Yosemite Valley, and they kind of brought that sort of dude surf culture, language to climbing.
But the actual descriptions are helpful when you're talking to somebody because now they're kind of understanding how they have to attack it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it's a common language. Yeah.
Every word I just said, Jason got.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately. Unbelievable. I'm going to have to go back and listen to the podcast before I go and try this out.
We will help you with a glossary. Our staff is great at explaining that stuff.
Fantastic.
You do not need to know the words until you're, many, many months into climbing. But yeah, I would say there's about a dozen words you should probably pick up, at some point. But it's really not that many.
That's amazing. Yeah. You just increase your vocabulary and get in shape and challenge yourself.
That's right.
Yep. So there's a lot that you guys are doing at Ascent New Haven.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Nate, I want to thank you so much for being here today. This has been a really great episode. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and learning about your story and all of the things that you guys are doing. It sounds like you and Katie have really provided something that is enhancing that area of New Haven. It's enhancing the community. And I hope people go and check out Ascent New Haven. Obviously, go back and listen to the episodes. We mentioned a couple of people that have been on this show. We had an episode with Move to Heal and with Julie Bayless. Those are both great episodes, both great people to kind of listen to and learn from. So thank you again for being on the show. Hopefully we'll have you back someday.
Thank you. I'd love it.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Sounds of Health. We're going to wrap up for today. But Sounds of Health, as always, is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group. We are produced by Jason Krubia with music by Rob Hames. And as always, I'm your host, Dave MacNiven. Every week, we bring you stories that inspire, empower, and help you to upgrade your health. If you enjoy the show, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, leave a review, and tell everybody you know about us. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook live stream, and also anywhere you listen to podcasts. So we hope you keep listening and continuing to be an important part of our wellness community. Thanks. See you next time.